Okay, I think we can start. Again, thank you everybody to join this session of CUGH, and this is about the Amazon. And my name is Roberto Lucchini. And I'm an MD medical doctor, and I'm a specialist in occupational and environmental health. I'm here at the Florida International University in Miami, and this is a workshop on Amazon exposure and health impacts in the population that live in the Amazon. This is basically a workshop that we organized for the annual conference of the Global Health Consortium, which is an organization that is coordinated by Carlos Espinal and Rajiv Chaudhuri here at FIU. And we have an annual meeting. 1 year is in Miami, 1 year is in Cartagena, Colombia. And this year, in the meeting in Cartagena, we had this workshop on the Amazon. The whole idea for this workshop came because I think it's a special moment for the Amazon for various reasons. And at the political level, all the countries that are part of the Amazon basin basically are working hard on trying to develop the agenda for the Amazon, and therefore we thought it was a good moment to organize this workshop with the idea of having a panel of specialists that are working on different aspects regarding the Amazon and the contaminations of mercury and other co-exposures in the Amazon and the health impacts on the population. And the idea was to have those that are actively working from Brazil, from Peru, and from Colombia, and asking them to provide updates and providing science and data about the situation in the Amazon and the challenging in targeting all the issues regarding the health impact related to exposure to various hazards from the environment and the occupation. So I'm very happy to reproduce this workshop here today, and we'll start pretty soon. The order of the presentations is basically is based on the different countries, and we will have two colleagues from Peru. First, we will start with Claudia Vega and Maria del Carmen Gastañaga Ruiz. They will tell us about Peru, and then we will have Jesus Olivero Verbel from Colombia. Then we will have the colleagues from Brazil, starting with the representative of the Ministry of Indigenous People, then Maria Elena Crespo Lopez and Paulo Cesar Basta from Brazil, then Alok Deoraj and myself from FIU, Florida International University. So it's my pleasure to introduce the first speaker, Claudia Vega from Peru. Claudia, if you can share your screen, and we will start from your country, basically showing your work in Peru and updates regarding your research in the Amazon, targeting the populations exposed to mercury and other pollutants in the region. Thank you very much, Claudia.
Okay, thank you, Roberto, for the introduction. I just want to make sure everybody can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. So, well, thank you for the introduction. My name is Claudia Vega. I'm the Mercury Program Coordinator of Centro de Innovación Científica. I am co-director of the Laboratorio de Mercurio y Química Ambiental. I'm here to present you the mercury exposure and outcome on indigenous people in the Peruvian Amazon. For this, I want to start with, well, I think it's the focus of this seminar, One Health, One Planet. And we have to remember that in order to have human health, we have to have environmental health and animal health. And I think the Amazon is the perfect example of this. And just to make sure everybody knows what we're talking about, the Amazon forest is the biggest forest in the world. It's part of 9 countries. It houses about 30% of the biodiversity of the planet and has about 511 ethnic groups. And 18% of the forest has been already lost, and 17% is being disturbed, and we can lose this forest too. And when people refer to the Amazon, most of the people say it's the lung of the planet. So we're kind of losing 40% of our lungs. And to tell you the story, I want to talk about Amazon, gold, and mercury. And this story starts in Madre de Dios, in the Peruvian Amazon. As you can see in the map, Madre de Dios is the southern part of the Peruvian Amazon, is declared by the Peruvian government as capital of biodiversity. Madre de Dios is where the Andes meet the Amazon, so you have a very, very unique biodiversity because you can see that transition from the Andes to the Amazon forest. And the landscape looks like this. I mean, you have this massive forest with giant rivers, but unhappily, one of the main economic activities in Madre de Dios is artisanal gold mining. So people destroy the forest to get the gold. And until 2018, about 280,000 acres were deforested due to ASGM, artisanal small-scale gold mining. So the landscape changed a little bit. And I don't know if all of you are familiar with this activity, but I'm going to explain a little bit more in front. So this, I'm showing you a graphic of how the gold price has been driving the deforested area due to ASGM in the past 35 years. And as you can see, the yellow line, you can see like when the gold price went up, also the deforested area start to grow, right? Until 2011, even though the gold price dropped, you have in 2017, it was the year that we have the biggest area deforested by ASGM. Why? You can see in the darker gray in the graphic, there was the implementation of the interoceanic highway. And as most of you know, a highway is also a driver of deforestation. So what you can see here is the mix of gold prices and highway implementation. And for all that are not familiar with this process, so when you are navigating the river, in some of the rivers here in Madrid, you can see this. This is a artisanal gold mining activity. What they are doing right in that picture, they are extracting the substrate from the river. That can be done in the river, which is totally illegal in Peru. You cannot do artisanal gold mining. You cannot do mining in water bodies, but they are extracting the substrate. Then they separate the particles. You can see a lot of like little stones. And then in this carpet, there are sand. There's like the gold sand, the gold in sand. And the gold is like sandy gold. So they need to extract this gold from the older substrate. They put mercury, they form the amalgam, which is what you're seeing here. This is a mix of mercury with gold. Then they heat it, and then they obtain the gold. So that's basically the process. This has been done by a lot of years. That was the same process that was used in California during the gold rush. And in Madre de Dios, there was a report in 2018 that estimate like about 180 tons of mercury per year was released due to ASGM or artisanal gold mining in Madre de Dios, from Madre de Dios. And that doesn't happen just in Peru, in the Peruvian Amazon. The artisanal gold mining has been reported as the main anthropogenic source of mercury in the world. About 40% of the anthropogenic mercury come from ASGM. 53 of this 40% come from the South America, and 80% of the 53% come from the Amazon. And as we must know, mercury is toxic and is a global concern. It's declared as a highly toxic heavy metal, and it's a concern for public health and also for the environmental health. So how do humans expose to mercury? We can be exposed to inorganic mercury, and that we can do it breathing or with dermic contact. And the bioindicator to use to see that exposure is urine. And methyl mercury is another form of mercury, one of the more toxic one. And that I'm going to explain how does that form. in the other slides. And that can be, you can be exposed to that by ingestion. You can ingest contaminated fish. So we know mercury is toxic, and that's why one of the first things that we did, we implemented the first mercury lab here in Madre de Dios. Until that year, everything that you needed to measure with mercury, you have to send it outside. So we implemented the capacity here, and we start to diagnose the problem. We did a collaboration with University of Toronto, and we wanted to measure mercury in air. And we used this passive air sampler. There's a very low cost equipment, and it can be put, like, it doesn't need electricity. So we map, this is the city of Puerto Maldonado, the capital of Madre de Dios. We deploy this passive air sampler in the whole city, and we obtain this map. As you can see, there's a hotspot of mercury concentration here. And we saw the highest levels of mercury near the market. Why near the market? There are gold shops in front of the market, and this gold shop is where you take your mercury, when the miners take the gold, since it's not purified, so they burn it, and then they emit mercury to the air, and they sell the gold to the gold shops. So we did that in Puerto Maldonado, the capital city of Madre de Dios, and we also did the mapping in the Interoceanic Highway. This is what you're seeing right now. You can see Puerto Maldonado, Laberinto, La Pampa, y Mazuco. All these three, well, Puerto Maldonado is the capital of Madre de Dios, but Laberinto, La Pampa, y Mazuco, they are basically mining town. So you can see in the map that the levels of mercury are kind of steady in the highway, but when you get near the mining town, the mercury increase, the mercury levels in the air. We are publishing that this month, and also with this passive air sampling, you can sample for isotopes that can give you the source of mercury, like, because there are natural mercury, anthropogenic mercury. And what we saw, like about 70% of the mercury in the air of Madre de Dios come from artisanal gold mine. What happened with the mercury in there? We also published this paper, the Amazon forest capture high levels of atmospheric mercury pollution from artisanal gold mining. Because what happened with the mercury in there? If you have the vegetation, the canopy helped to capture this mercury from the air, and then through fall and little fall, it falls into the soil and it's incorporated into the soil. So usually when you have canopy, you have vegetation, you have higher levels of mercury in that soil if it's near ASGM activity. And that you can see the detail in this paper, and that's a good thing. Why? Because when the mercury goes into the water, the inorganic mercury can be converted by bacteria to methyl mercury. And methyl mercury, as I already said before, is one of the more toxic forms of mercury, and it can be concentrated in the food web and also biomagnified. What does that mean? It means like the concentration of mercury is higher in top predator, and we have fish with carnivore fish or piscivore fish with higher concentration of mercury. So going back to Madre de Dios, this is a picture of La Pampa. This is one of the more iconic area of Madre de Dios. There was forest there, and now you have this passive. You have deforestation, and you have mining ponds. So ASGM convert forest to water. And I already showed you what can happen with mercury in the water. So we know that these mining ponds, they are not dead mining ponds. In fact, there's an article in 2021 where we saw that the mining ponds have a higher colonization capacity for aquatic community. So all these fish that you are seeing there are fish that were captured in mining ponds. So we wanted to see like how much mercury these fish have. And as you see, as you know, mercury is natural, it's all over the place. But so we needed to know how much mercury is naturally in the area, how much mercury was probably coming from ASDM. So as you can see this map, the yellow area is ASDM activity, is where the mining corridor is in Puerto Maldonado, in Madre de Dios. And we have sampling sites near the mining activity, and we also have sampling sites of Oakville lakes in controls that where the control sites are upriver mining activity. So what we saw in the fish is that there is mercury in all the fishes. As I told you, biomagnification. There's biomagnification. You can see higher levels of mercury in carnivore fish. And when you compare mining pond fish with Oxbow Lake fish, you can see that there is a significant difference. There are higher levels of mercury in fish that coming from mining ponds. So you can see biomagnification in the fish. The carnivore fish have higher levels, and who's in the top of the food web? Humans, right? So we can be exposed, as I already told you, eating this contaminated fish. But the mercury doesn't stay just in the fish and doesn't go just to humans. And as I already told you, we need a healthy environment to have a human health. And we wanted to see how much mercury is going also to terrestrial ecosystem. That's why we study, we use bird as a bioindicator because they can feed on fish and macrovertebrates from aquatic ecosystem. And we did the same. We collected birds from mining ponds and from control sites. What did we see? You can see in this graphic, the birds that eat fish are the ones that have the highest levels. And if we do a close-up in the birds that were captured in control site and mining ponds, you can see that there was a significant difference from the birds that were collected in mining ponds that has the highest mercury levels. In fact, this kingfisher, this species we found one of the highest mercury levels reported in literature. We are submitting that paper right now. So we can see that birds that coming from mining area have higher levels of mercury. What does that mean? We still don't know, but we know that there is a negative effect for reproduction success in birds that has been already reported in North America, but we still don't know what is happening in the tropics. So birds are not the only one that eat fish. We have the giant mammals, that is the giant river otter. And we still don't know what is happening. We have seen river otters in mining ponds. We still don't know what is happening to them. And this takes us to our more known mammal, Mercury in humans. We have to remember that the Amazonian population have one of the highest rates of fish consumption in the world. We're talking about communities that eat fish every day, all the time, because that's what they have access to. The Amazon is full of rivers and also lakes, and they can fish, and that's their main source of protein. So in 2013, there was a study made in Madre de Dios where you can see that indigenous community have more than double the levels of mercury compared to non-indigenous community. This was a study made in HER, which, as I already told you, is the bioindicator for mercury exposure from fish ingestion. And also 7 of the 10 communities with the highest mercury levels were indigenous community. So we could see that there was a vulnerability of the indigenous community to mercury exposure in Madre de Dios. And these communities were near the yellow area where the mining activity happens, but we wanted to see what was happening with indigenous community that were far away from this area. So as you can see in the left side, there's my South community. And there was an expedition in 2014 when they saw that the community, the whole community sampled the whole community, and the mean of the community was 26 ppm. So compared to the other community, myself presented the highest mercury level in Madre de Dios. And that was mainly associated to the fish consumption. As you can see in this graphic, most of the people in the community eat fish every day. And when we did the analysis in the hair, you can see 1 centimeter is correspond to 1 month. So you can see that this exposure can change through time. And you can see it's higher in dry season because it's when they fish, and it's lower in rainy season because it's what they hunt. So we went back in 2017, presented the results to the community, and take some more sample of fish and hair from the community. And in 2018, the other communities that are up there, they also wanted to be part of the study. It was Yomibato, Cacaotal, and myself. They wanted to know how much mercury they are exposed to. And so in 2018, we went back there and we presented the study to the communities. We collected fish and did a rapid health assessment. And what the results were, like, myself have access to more higher levels of mercury through the fish, as you can see in the graphic. And that's mainly, if you remember, myself is in the main river. So you have bigger fishes and carnivore fish in the bigger rivers. So they can fish that type of fish, and those are the ones that present higher levels. Also, there are migratory fish. And when we see the mercury levels in the three years of study, you can see the red is myself. They have the highest level. You can see the dry season here is the highest level in 2014. But then in 2017 and 2018, we went during the rainy season, and the levels were lower, but still high, and they were higher compared to Cacaotal and Yomibato. This the line is the recommended mercury level for her for the WHO, and all the communities above, most of the communities above that. And the rapid assessment, we did this rapid assessment, and we also found, like, mercury is the tip of the iceberg. They have high levels of malnutrition and also anemia. And we did some tests, cognitive tests. We were trying this new cognitive test because we needed to adapt to indigenous people, because they speak another language and they have other reference. And in 2022, we published this paper where we could see that the mercury exposure can affect memory, verbal memory, and visual memory, and also the central executive function can be also affected. As you can see in the last one is the number of error they have in the test. So the people that have more mercury has more error in the test. So how can we avoid mercury intoxication? Well, that's a complicated question, and I think my other colleague is going to help to answer that. In Peru, it's not illegal to do mining, but there are places that you cannot do. You need to be registered with the government. And one of the things is probably do more responsible mining and use free technology, mercury-free technology. Also reducing deforestation and biomass burning, as we see the forests help to capture the mercury. And what can we do with indigenous people diet? We have to tell them the story. We have to let them know what is safe, which are safer fish to eat. We work with women, tell them all this information and how to balance diets. We work with the Regional Federation of Indigenous People here in Madre de Dios, and we're trying to do this workshop. Those were done in 2019. Education, and education again. We have to work with new generation. And about the forests that we're losing, since we also have reforestation program, and we have one of the biggest reforestation experiment on the field. And we use different techniques to see which one is more effective to plant trees. Well, my time is up, so I want to thank you for your attention. And we don't do this work alone. We work in collaboration with other institutions. And here are a list of the institutions. Cincia is a alliance with Wayfarers and USAID. So thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Claudia. And the way we want to do this is allow one or maybe two questions after each presentation, because then we will have time in the end of the session for the general discussion. So there's a question here from Catherine Machalaba about the rule of insects in mercury transfer. Are they mechanical vectors, or do they play a role in bioaccumulation via the food chain? This is interesting and concerning, as increases in some mosquito populations have been observed around mining sites in other regions. Thank you very much, Catherine.
So that's very interesting. Well, there are two things. When you increase the water bodies, you probably have more suitable places for the mosquito to reproduce. And there are some studies that try to see if there's more malaria because you have more house for the vectors with the mining activity. There was a study, I think, in Brazil, and that was trying to see that. It seems like you're gonna have more vectors there, so you could have more diseases that are driven by these vectors. And the macroinvertebrates in general, like there's another trophic change. Like I think macroinvertebrates are the link between aquatic ecosystem and terrestrial ecosystem. The spider, you can see spiders that are predator have higher levels because they eat also like macroinvertebrate, like dragonfly, for example, is a perfect example. And there's a study in the US that is called Mercury Dragonfly Project, where they use the dragonfly larvae to study mercury because it's a predator, lives in the water, so can accumulate mercury naturally. I don't know if I answered the question.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Claudia. So let's move forward with the next presentation. Again, please stay with us until the end. We will have some general discussion. So it's a pleasure now to have Maria del Carmen Castañaga, again from Peru, but from a kind of a different perspective, more related to occupational exposure, I believe. So Maria, if you can share your screen, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria del Carmen Castañaga Ruiz. I am medical specialist in environmental health. I work at National Institute of Health, Lima, Peru. Please. Peru located in South America with a population of 33,725,000 people in 2023. In the Peruvian Amazon, we found regions such as Loreto, Ucayali, and Madre de Dios, where mercury is vastly used in gold mineral. In this region, Amazonian ethnicities still remain, among them Ashanica, Awapun, Shipibo, all known as native people. Current situation. According to statistics from the Ministry of Energy and Mines, as of June 2019, 141 formal mining units in operation were registered in Peru, corresponding to medium and large mining. Of the 25 regions of the country, 21 have illegal and informal mining, especially for gold extraction, which is the simplest process. In addition, 24,000 kilos of gold are produced annually through illegal and informal mining. In turn, this generates 48,000 kilos of mercury per year, which is a polluting element for any organism. In this picture, you can see an Amazonian landscape with no human intervention. In the next picture, you can see the effect of illegal mining, one of them in deforestation. Illegal meaningless for living conditions and child exploitation. The result is a deforested and almost dead area. Mercury for the artisanal and small-scale mining sector, as well as for informal and illegal mining. This metal is used as an essential element for the extraction of gold through the amalgamation or mercury process, mainly carried out in Amazonian and Andean areas, which, due to their inadequate disposal and or control, irreversible effects rivers, lagoons, and headwaters of basins that collaterally have an impact of health, the environment, biodiversity, and the food chain. According to Peruvian law, mercury is a controlled chemical input subject to control, and it is the obligation of users to have its registration in the register for the control of controller goods of the SUNAT. In this map, we can situate the major sites of illegal mining: Madre de Dios, Ucayali, y Loreto. Performance activity. Operation Mercury illegal auriferous mining. The illegal gold mining reached crisis level in the south of the Peruvian Amazon between 2017 and 2018, destroying more than 1,200 hectares of forest in the most impacted area, known as La Pampa, located in the buffer zone of the Tambopata National Reserve. At the beginning of 2019, the Peruvian government launched the Operation Mercury, an unprecedented long-term intervention against illegal mining, initially focusing on La Pampa. This operation was later replaced by the Restoration Plan 2051-2023 since July 2021, which included intervention in other critical mining areas of the Madre de Dios region. This map indicates the color red deforestation due to gold mining after Operation Mercury. Meanwhile, the color yellow indicates the baseline prior to the operation. Minamata Convention. It came into force on August 16, 2017, and addressed the problem of mercury taking into account its life cycle, from when it is extracted until it becomes waste. It aims to protect human health and the environment from anthropogenic emission and release of mercury and mercury compounds. In 2019, the National Plan for the application of the Convention was approved through Supreme Decree, which established the schedule of activities, which are still of the agenda. being the most important. The approval of the National Action Plan for Artisanal and Small-Scale Gold Mining. In Peru, many institutions are related to this convention: Ministry of Energy and Mines, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Economy, and Ministry of Production. May Plan. The May Plan proposal contemplates a strategy aimed at the sustainability of the planet, reducing emissions and release of mercury, reducing public health risk from exposure to mercury, the recovery of degraded air and or contaminated sites, preventing mercury exposure in vulnerable populations, the formalization and sustainability of artisanal and small-scale mining, trade management and prevention of mercury diversion, and finally, the prevention of illegal mining and promotion of alternative sustainable activities. Ministry of Health is in charge active for reduction of risk on public health by exposure to mercury. Planet Goal is a global program financed by the Global Environment Facility and led by the United Nations Environment Program. In Peru, it is implemented by Ministry of Environment allied with Ministry of Energy and Mining, and technically supported by the United Nations Development Program. The program is implemented currently in 9 countries: Guyana, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Burkina Faso, Kenya, Indonesia, Filipinas, and Mongolia, coming soon in 8 more countries. The aim of the program is to reduce and or eliminate emissions and release of mercury from artisanal and short-scale mining. This through the strategy of facilitating the access to credit for the miners to acquire clean technology to they call formality and develop good practice. In Peru, Planet Gold worked with 18 mini organizations in Piura, Arequipa, and Puno, 29, 2024. Bad practice of using mercury for extraction of gold, amalgamation in grading, amalgamation in kimberlites, amalgamation in the concentration, amalgam heating, y amalgam heating in top. Consequence of using mercury in health is neural and nephrotoxic toxicity manifests itself over time. Environment, mercury emission to atmosphere, release in soil and water, tailings containing mercury, cyanomercury. In social, bad reputation, polluters, perception of illegality. In economy, low percentage of gold inflation, low economic income. Solution to avoid, reduce, and or eliminate mercury in artisanal mining in short scale. Short-term reduction in using mercury emission and release. Medium-long-term shift to alternative mercury-free technology. Fair trading mechanism. Progress and results. Access to credit. Planet's goal allows miners access to credit so they can formality. Transference of clean technology. Planet's goal allows and promotes the transference of clean technology. Transference of mercury emission analysis. Planet Goal allows the transference of mercury emission analysis. The Star Payaquera program. This program is the training for women that recycle gold. The third, thank you very much for your time. Here you can see some pictures in my country which you can visit at any time. Very much.
Thank you very much, Maria. That was really good and interesting, and thank you for keeping the time. So if we have one quick question, please let me know. Okay, so thank you again, Maria, and let's move forward to the next presentation. We're going to move to Colombia, and it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jesus Oliveiro Verbel from the University of Cartagena. Please, Jesus, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Can you look at me?
Yes, we can see the slides. If you can put them in the full screen. Excellent. Okay. You're muted, Jesus.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Are you listening?
Yes.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is my pleasure to be here this morning. My name is Jesus Olivero. I am a professor from the University of Cartagena in Cartagena, Colombia. Today, I will be talking about mercury exposure and outcomes on indigenous people in the Colombian Amazon. Okay, I would like to acknowledge my research group, who is responsible for all the data we are presenting here. All those institutions and people that over the years have helped us. This is the Amazon. We think about the Amazon as a big territory in the whole world. As you can see, the curvature of the planet. However, when we see this picture, which is a photograph taken from Mars, that little dot over there is our planet. It's really small, and the purpose of this talk will be related to that particular fact that we shouldn't forget where are we in the universe, how small we are, and how big our responsibilities are. So this is the outline of my presentation. Mercury as a pollutant, mercury in the Colombian Amazon, and then I will talk about the perspectives from the university. Mercury is a very important element for several reasons. It is highly toxic, but from a physicochemical perspective, it has very high density. And this allows mercury to get very easily deep into the sediments. Once we release a small drop of mercury in a river, it will go directly to the sediments. Because it is very heavy, has a high density, it will stay there for a long time. Mercury also has vapor pressure. It is a liquid in the elemental form. So that means it will saturate any environment through the release of vapors. So we can inhale mercury if it is deposited in a particular place where we are. There are several species of mercury: metallic mercury, inorganic mercury, and organic mercury. Metallic mercury is the one that we use in thermometers and also in the lamps. Inorganic mercury is usually used for lab experiments, and organic mercury is that found in fish. Most of the mercury that we eat through fish is organic mercury, and the particular form that we find in fish is methyl mercury. Unfortunately, methyl mercury is one of the most toxic forms of the metal. And that means that if we eat contaminated fish, we will be exposed to mercury in the organic form. So this is the special form of mercury that we call methyl mercury. As you can see, it's a methyl group bound to a mercury ion. This form is the one that is bound to proteins in fish. So when we eat the fish, we are eating about 80–90% of methyl mercury of the total amount of mercury present in the fish. Mercury is also interesting because the environmental dynamics, all the pathways lead to humans. Once mercury is released into the environment, it will be transformed in sediments by specific bacteria. And after the transformation, mercury will travel from one species to another to finally reach humans, because we are the top of the trophic chain. Mercury has a very specific group of effects in humans. Maybe the most important effect of mercury that we all know is Minamata disease. Minamata, as you might recall, it is a city in Japan that maybe 70 years ago, around 70 years ago, had a problem with methyl mercury. Methyl mercury was produced as a residue from a chemical reaction in a factory. That methyl mercury reaches humans through fish consumption. And there was a devastation in Minamata because mercury produced many problems in children and adults. It is very toxic chemical with teratogenic properties. These teratogenic properties make these children very sick, and also because of the effects of mercury in the central nervous system, they have problems with many forms of decrease in memory, some sort of related factors regarding brain function. As I mentioned, these are typical pictures of Minamata disease in children. Those children were exposed to mercury in uterus. I like this photograph because it shows how the brain is damaged by methyl mercury. As you can see right here in the bottom, the brain, each one of those dots is a small part of the brain that is damaged by methyl mercury, especially in the during the embryonic exposure. A particular set of manifestations of mercury exposure disease is erethism. Erethism is a group of different problems that have been observed in people exposed to mercury. Those include behavioral changes, irritability, shyness, social isolation, depression, delirium, tremor, general pain, among others. Acrodynia is also a manifestation of mercury exposure. It is characterized because of this pink color in hands and foot. As you can see here, it produces inflammation, pain, photophobia, paresthesia. That means that you will feel like needles on your skin, and very large numbers of different neurological problems. Mercury has also been associated with cardiovascular diseases. There is a lot of information right now regarding this particular effect of mercury, but in some places around gold mining areas here in Colombia, we have seen also polydactylia. Polydactylia, specifically in female children from mothers that were working in mines for a long time. We will continue showing some data on mercury indigenous communities of the Colombian Amazon. This is the way mining is done in our Amazon rivers. Is very typical. Claudia also shows some similar arrangements for gold extraction from the sediments. And something that is going on in the Amazon is the whole destruction of this important ecosystem for our survival. This destruction of the Amazon is done basically, or one of the main reasons is to not only to obtain wood, but to isolate gold from sediments and soils. So the people who are collecting the gold, who are mining the gold, they have to destroy the rainforest, as you can see here. And that destruction is performed directly from the rivers. So if we continue this devastation in the Amazon, we will find something similar to was seen in the Avatar movie, where we were visiting a very productive planet used to obtain minerals. We are forgetting completely all the great things that biodiversity from the Amazon has to offer us. The Amazon, of course, has to be full of people that might take care of the Amazon. And those people are particularly indigenous communities. This map shows the location of many indigenous communities around the Amazon. As we can see here, the whole territory is filled with indigenous communities, and those indigenous communities are also part or they live in natural reserves. Those people, they are the main factors that allow the Amazon to survive. If we don't take care of the indigenous communities, the Amazon will be definitely destroyed in a very short period of time. This is the life cycle of mercury in the Amazon. So we can see here, miners use mercury to extract gold that is present in the sediments of the rivers. During that process, mercury is released, reaches the sediments, and in the sediments it is methylated, and that methylation leads to the production of methyl mercury, which then goes into the trophic chain, finally reaching humans. Those are some of the papers that we have published regarding this problem in the Amazon, and we will talk about some of them. We have taken samples of hair, basically, in different indigenous communities along the Caquetá River. This is the Caquetá River, one of the most important rivers in Colombia, and these boats here are places where we have seen gold mining directly on Caquetá River. We have taken also fish samples, as you can see here, according to the trophic chain or the position in the trophic chain. the mercury concentrations will increase based on the level those fish occupied in the trophic chain. Carnivorous fish have greater mercury levels. Something important to mention is that the contamination of mercury in fish is so high that for most of these species, it's difficult to have few portions of fish eaten on a week basis. That means, for instance, that this fish right here, Triporteus and Galatus, can be eaten only one portion in a week in order to protect human health. Some of them, in particular piscivorous fish, cannot be eaten, not even one single portion in a week, because the amount of mercury those fish have produce risks, different types of risks for human health. Those are the levels of mercury in hair of people from Caquetá River, all of them indigenous communities. We can see here that the average is around 17.3 parts per million or micrograms per gram. 17.3. And at the international community, we shouldn't have more than 1 ppm at maximum. And these communities, they have very similar total mercury concentrations in hair, and they are 17.3 times or fold greater than those that are recommended to protect human health. But mercury is not only present in adults, but also in children, as you can see in this picture. You can see that the boys, they are not eating fish. All the mercury they have is used through breastfeeding, and they have concentrations that are really high, 7.9 for boys and 10 ppm for girls. Mercury is another important river in the Amazon. This is the location of the CUGH River. And there is this place here which is far from mining activities. This place here, okay? This place, which is called Pupuña, is far from mining, and people who live around this place had the lowest levels of mercury. This puts on context that gold mining is an important source of mercury for indigenous communities in the Colombian Amazon. We also check mercury levels in Puerto Nariño, directly on the Amazon River. We found concentrations around 5 to 7 ppm in women and men. But something which was very interesting was the relationship we found between the number of lymphocytes in blood and total mercury in people. As we can see from this table, when we correlate mercury in hair, mercury in blood with total mercury in hair, mercury in blood with lymphocytes in blood, the correlation was statistically significant. But this correlation was inverse, was negative. So somehow mercury is impacting the number of lymphocytes in humans, and that impact occurs at low levels of mercury. So we don't have to see those levels that we check in Caquetá River. Levels below 5 ppms, which are normally found in people who eat fish, might be impacting lymphocyte count on blood. In the Apaporis, which is an important river in Colombia, the situation is even worse. Apaporis is one of the most beautiful rivers we have in the country. This slide shows how we did the hair sampling in those communities, but what we found was not good. The concentrations of total mercury in air were very high, with levels as high as more than 40 ppm in some samples. So the Apaporis River, or the communities living in this river, are facing very large problems regarding mercury exposure. We conduct risks analysis. We can see in this table that in this graph that based on the concentrations we found, these communities have an important and significant loss in IQ points. In general, the Amazon region is changing very fast, and this is something that we should take very present. We need to go to the Amazon. We need to get out our offices and visiting those communities, used to take a view of what they are facing. They are having a large number of problems because of climate change. They are not able to move, as you can see in this picture, because the rivers have lost, or the channels, they have lost it. We have also observed some problems with the fish in the Amazon that we haven't been able to see before. For instance, it is quite common to find now parasites in mussel of fish from the Amazon. We believe that this problem should be more closely investigated, because this is not normal, and we don't know what is going on with those parasitosis in fish. Remember what we saw with lymphocytes in humans. Well, something similar might be also going on in fish in terms of infections. It is likely also that in some of these communities we are experiencing some Minamara disease, in particular, particularly in some children. But we need to help those communities, basically. But we cannot help them providing tuna fish, because we know tuna fish, at least in Colombia, have large concentrations of mercury. At least specifically brands of tuna fish that is sold in supermarkets, they have high mercury levels. So we are not improving the quality of life. What are those perspectives from the university? Well, we need to work on environmental education, sharing the knowledge, work on law enforcement, and very important, get involved. This is the main message of this talk. We need to work on environmental education, prepare more information for these people. Things like this we are trying to share with colleagues from Brazil. We also prepared different educational materials for medical doctors, so that they can really find when one of those people, those persons have mercury exposure and experience problems. We need to get out of the office, as I said, get out of the lab, visit these communities, together work on monitoring programs, epidemiology, and of course, mercury in the Amazon is just the tip of the iceberg. Communities there, they are facing many problems in terms of infection disease. They don't have access to clinical care. They are vulnerable to epidemics. They have chronic diseases, children's problems, prostitution, and so on. Do we need more actions? The answer is absolutely yes. We need to talk to politicians, trying to make changes as much as we can. we do have some good examples to show how this close contact with the government from the academy has produced very good impacts, such as the sentence T622 from 2016 that gave rights to a river in Colombia, a river that is being polluted by mercury, received rights from the constitutional court of the country. So we need to work more closely with the government to get definitely changes to improve the situation in the Amazon. We also need to put more academics into the Minamata Convention because at least here in Colombia, I see more politicians talking about Minamata Convention and less scientists. So we need to change that ratio in order to be to have more possibilities to impact. Conservation, yes, we need to do conservation activities, but based on the study of biodiversity. We are not looking the biodiversity as a whole future for the Amazon. And the proof is this, the number of papers that have been released based on biodiversity in the Colombian Amazon is really, really low. So we need to work on that. But on the other side is the mining, working against biodiversity. As you can see here, the whole country of Colombia somehow is being used or will be used for mining. The
Please,
Amazon
Jesus,
has
one more minute. Please,
oh,
Jesus.
yes. Oh, I only need one more minute. Thank you, Roberto. This is just one example. The flora of the Amazon, that is part of our biodiversity, has many chemicals that can be used to protect human health. So this is the counterpart, the biodiversity. If we use the biodiversity, we extract information from the plants, from the insects, from the bacteria that lives there, we will have all the pathways leading to sustainable development. No te escucho, Roberto.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much, Jesus, for this very good presentation about the situation in Colombia. Is any question? Otherwise, we continue. So, okay, we have a video now. This is a video from a representative. So now we are moving to Brazil. We are having here a video from a representative of the new ministry from the indigenous people that has been implemented very recently in Brazil. And so we are happy to listen the message from Dr. Eliel Benitez, who is a representative of the ministry.
Cumprimento a todos e a todas do evento grandioso que está acontecendo e encaminho a minha presença, a minha reflexão a partir desse vídeo, encaminhando para que a gente possa pensar junto, né, a temática fundamentais que interessa aos povos indígenas.
Sorry, Jenna, there should be the translation. We don't see it.
Okay, one moment. Let me see why they're not working. Okay.
There you go. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
Na qual este evento está. Cumprimento a todos e a todas do evento grandioso que está acontecendo e encaminho a minha presença, a minha reflexão a partir desse vídeo, encaminhando para que a gente possa pensar junto, né, a temática fundamentais que interessa aos povos indígenas e que interessa também a pauta da saúde global, na qual este evento está promovendo. Com muita felicidade encaminho as mensagens para dizer já em primeira mão, dizendo a desculpa, né, por não estar presente nesse evento grandioso, porque nós estamos num processo de reconstrução das políticas públicas, né, em relação aos povos indígenas no Brasil, na qual foi deixado grandemente, né, no processo de desmonte, no processo de desestruturação da política e os direitos indígenas dos povos originários pela gestão anterior. E muitas emergências, né, muitas necessidades, emergências, cresce aqui no Brasil, em todas as regiões, né, norte, nordeste, sudeste, sul, centro-oeste do Brasil. Então a gente acaba focando, né, nos trabalhos muitos emergenciais, porque a necessidade é imensa. A violação dos direitos dos povos é muito grande aqui no Brasil. Então, assumindo o Ministério Indígena, né, no Departamento de Línguas e Memória, e a presença do Ministério dos Povos Indígenas, ela foi estratégico, é fundamental para lidar com essa situação, né? E com o objetivo também da recomposição da política pública, né, na qual foi desmontada. E a partir dessa reconstrução, né, para a gente possa construir permanentemente, baseado na coletividade, na consulta livre, prévia, informada, né, e principalmente baseado no conhecimento ancestral, no conhecimento dos povos originários, na qual vai conduzir a construção de uma nova política. E nessa conjuntura é que a pauta, por exemplo, da saúde, né, a perspectiva indígena, ela é fundamental, porque o conhecimento indígena, ela vem de uma forma a sustentar toda a ecologia, toda a parte dos biomas que faz parte no Brasil, na Amazonas, no centro, nos biomas Pantanal, nos biomas do Cerrado, Mata Atlântica, o Pampas, a Caatinga, né, por exemplo, que faz parte de grandes biomas no Brasil, na qual os povos se está estabelecida. Nesse contexto, a sustentabilidade, né, do planeta, referente à forma dos povos indígenas estar vivendo, é o que nós estamos trazendo como base política, né, para conduzir a nova gestão do governo federal aqui no nosso trabalho. Então, com esse lema, né, com a fala da ministra e das autoridades dos povos indígenas, estão falando de reflorestar a mente, né, ou seja, colocar, né, na mentalidade da sociedade e nas instituições públicas para que se constituam novas metodologias, novas formas de atuação política, técnica, para que a gente possa reconstruir o Brasil no caminho da sustentabilidade, né? E nessa reconstrução no caminho da sustentabilidade, o objetivo central é o bem viver, que é a ideia que está tomando bastante espaço aqui na política, na discussão política entre os jovens, sociedade indígena. Então, a dificuldade, por exemplo, a Amazonas, né? Hoje nós vivenciamos muito grandemente a questão da violência pelos garimpos, né? Da violência pela exploração ilegal das riquezas naturais da Amazonas, como madeira, como minerais, né? A poluição, né, dos rios, ele está afetando grandemente os povos indígenas. E nesse contexto de estar poluindo, destruindo a Amazônia, na visão dos povos indígenas, isso também amplia outros biomas, como o Cerrado e os demais que eu já falei. Ela também é uma forma de estar violando as divindades. É uma forma de estar, através dos elementos que compõem o território, como a terra, a água, como o próprio ar, né, os rios, né, toda essa poluição, destruição, ela vai decompondo os corpos, né, das divindades dos povos, ou seja, a espiritualidade. Então, porque a espiritualidade dos povos, ela se manifesta, ela está presente nesses elementos. E esses elementos é a parte onde os povos indígenas se conectam com as suas divindades e ancestralidade. Então, nesse sentido, né, a reconstrução, o fortalecimento, a sustentabilidade dos povos amazônicos e também de outros biomas, exatamente para retomar a ancestralidade, retomar esse princípio, esse básico, para a gente possa construir novos saberes, nova sustentabilidade, nova forma de viver. Então, essa mensagem que
Something happened with the video. Sorry, it was somehow interrupted. Jen, I think it wasn't really caused by us. Probably the video was truncated. So unfortunately, we have to move forward. I think, by the way, that the message was quite clear and really strong in terms of the issues that the indigenous people have to say to us, and in terms of also killing their belief in the spirituality, which is absolutely important knowledge that we need to have. And so I think we have to move forward now with Brazil, and it's my pleasure to introduce I see Paulo, but I think we have Maria Elena first. So Maria Elena is the next speaker, and Maria Elena Crespo Lopez is a professor at the University of Pará, and she's gonna talk about again the Amazon within a larger context where Mercury is one important element, but not the only one. So it's not a single story. Please, Maria Elena, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Roberto, and good afternoon, everybody. I am very happy to be here today and talk to you. As Roberto said, my name is, you can see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Maria Elena. I am full professor at the Universidade Federal do Pará, that is located in this city, Belém, at the mouth of the Amazon River. I am director of the Laboratorio de Farmacologia Molecular, which is a member of the Global Mercury Partnership of the United Nations. My institution is one of the largest universities in the Pan-Amazon region. It offers more than 100 PhD courses, and it currently leads a scientific production related to the Amazon. Here we have some photos of my university, and especially of my team. Caio, Jan, Gabriela, Leticia, Marcus, and Camille. They are students and professors that work for the last 15 years with the traditional population of the Amazon and are responsible for the data that I am presenting to you today. Our team has developed research on mercury toxicity. We have to understand that about 7% of the Amazon is in Brazil. So what Brazil do has a high impact. We have mainly studied traditional population living at some of the main tributaries of the Brazilian Amazon basin, such as the Tapajós River Basin and Tocantins River Basin. Today, I am going to talk about mercury in this Amazon. I borrowed part of this title from one of my favorite writers, who is Chimamanda Adichie. who coined the expression the single history to refer to default assumptions and conclusions based on a limited view of the reality. For example, they believe that mercury only affects regions near of the metal release sites. So today I hope to provide you some facts to better understand this problem. First, we have to understand that mercury is everywhere. Part of the mercury in the Arctic originates in South America, traveling long distance across the globe. Therefore, the problem of mercury in the Amazon affects all of us. In fact, the United Nations has already declared that everyone in the world is exposed to mercury at some level, whether through the food we eat, the air we breathe, or the cosmetic we use. So the problem is for everybody. Before the pandemic, Brazil was among the top 5 countries emitting the most mercury into the air. Furthermore, about 80% of all mercury emissions in South America originated in the Amazon. So what happened in the Amazon has a really high impact in the globe. Among all the anthropogenic sources of mercury, artisanal and small-scale gold mining is the main contributor by far. It is responsible for almost half of all emissions worldwide. This activity use, such as Claudia already told, this activity use the mercury to capture the small particles and releasing significant quantities of the metal in this process. The problem begins with the different definitions of what is artisanal and a small-scale gold mine. According to the United Nations, this mining involves limited investment and production. However, the Brazilian law does not impose any investment limits, allowing the use of any machinery. It also does not require any prior impact assessment, and overall location is controlled by a good faith system, only based on the miner's declaration. So this lack of limits contributes to the expansion and to the extent of these mining activities in Brazil. These photos from recent years show the extent of mining sites and examples of the machinery that miners use. It includes dredging raft. You can see here many of these rafts in the Madeira River basin, moving along with the river and dredging the river bottom. We have also excavators and even planes. You can see here a runway in the middle of the forest. Therefore, at least in the Brazilian Amazon, gold mining is no longer artisanal and a small-scale activity. Recent evidence has shown that intact forests can capture mercury in the leaves of the trees, removing it from the air. So it is essential to preserve the intact forest that is surrounding the mining sites. However, mercury accumulated in the trees can potentially be released back into the atmosphere in the event of a fire or deforestation. And this is really important because due to the historical records, especially in the last years, of biomass burning and deforestation. These many facts disproportionately affect traditional communities in the Amazon because they have a close connection with the surrounding environment. So they are the first to be affected by this problem. In the Amazon, we have three main traditional populations: indigenous people, quilombolas, who are descendants of African slaves brought by the Portuguese, and riverine population, riverine people, who are descendants of a successive wave of migration to the Amazon. All these traditional populations share characteristics such as a limited access to healthcare. However, unlike indigenous people, quilombolas and riverine people do not have international visibility or any specific Brazilian agency dedicated to their healthcare. So quilombolas and riverine people are truly invisible populations in official reports. Because of it, many times they are even more vulnerable than indigenous people. We have worked with mainly these riverine populations in the Amazon. They have a diet primarily based on fish as their main source of protein. And as Claudia already said, they consume 7 or more times a week fish. Therefore, any environmental change affecting fish immediately impact these populations. In fact, we look at the riverine population of the Tapajós River Basin, for example, which is one of the Amazonian regions more affected by gold mining. And we can see that the high mercury levels in this population has been well above the maximum recommended by the World Health Organization in the last 2 decades. And this is a problem that not only affects the regions near of mining sites. Mercury is widespread in the Amazon, and contaminated fish can be found as far away as in the city of Belém, where it is sold in markets for human consumption. Notably, there is no gold mining in Belém or near Belém. And this is concerning because the Brazilian state of Pará, where both the Tapajós River Basin and Belém are located, is the leading exporter of fish to other countries. So we are exporting the problem. Confirming the ubiquity of mercury in the Amazon, our data on riverine populations of regions without gold mining, such as the Tocantins River Basin, show that people currently have higher levels of hair mercury than those found in the Tapajós River Basin. So this is a problem of all the Amazon. To understand the context of this exposure, we can convert these levels into their equivalent in blood mercury. We can then compare them to the levels of those found in cohorts in Europe and the United States, for example. When we do this, we can see that we are dealing with levels about 20 times higher in the Amazon. Therefore, given this significant difference in human exposure, it is extremely important to improve our understanding of the populations from the southern hemisphere, especially those in the Amazon. Opa. Improving this knowledge is also important because this population from the southern hemisphere present a different genetic background when compared to those of the northern hemisphere. For example, we found that indigenous ancestry is associated with a higher prevalence of apolipoprotein E4. Apolipoprotein E plays an essential role in axonal growth, integrity, and neuronal health. The E4 allele is a significant genetic risk factor for neurodegeneration. And the presence of this allele shares many deleterious mechanisms with mercury intoxication. Therefore, the coexistence of both conditions can have synergistic effects on the human brain. And when we analyze the presence of this E4 allele in the Amazon riverine populations, we found that almost 1/3 of the population carries at least one copy of this allele. This means that 1 in 3 riverine individuals is especially susceptible to neurodegeneration. Surprisingly, we also found an association with higher mercury accumulation in ApoE4 carriers, suggesting that the E4 allele may be both more susceptible to neurodegeneration and more prone to mercury accumulation. Indeed, many studies have already demonstrated that riverine populations in the Amazon experience neurological outcomes such as motor impairments, visual deficits, memory problems, and alteration of development in children, among other symptoms. All these symptoms are typically correlated with mercury levels, pointing to this metal as a primary cause. In addition to these neurological problems, ApoE4 is also a marker for cardiovascular risks, and recent meta-analyses have demonstrated that even low levels of mercury are associated to cardiovascular consequences. So, in Amazonian riverine populations, we can also find high prevalence of non-communicable disease, such as hypertension, diabetes, and this prevalence is higher than those found in major cities like São Paulo or Rio de Janeiro. Here we also find that 1 in 3 individuals in these populations already has metabolic syndrome, which includes at least 3 of the following factors: hypertension, high glucose levels, low HDL levels, high triglycerides, and obesity. One interesting thing is that mercury levels were significantly associated with alterations in apolipoprotein A1 and apolipoprotein B. This close relationship could be used in public health prevention strategies to detect individuals at high risk early and implement interventions to prevent long-term cardiovascular consequences in these populations. Finally, I would like to highlight a challenge for you. which is during the COVID pandemic, Brazil was one of the countries most affected with a high prevalence of death, especially among these traditional communities. However, COVID can lead to sequelae, and many of these symptoms overlap with those of mercury intoxication. To date, we do not know how the possible synergism of these two conditions, the sequelae of COVID and mercury intoxication, may affect exposed and vulnerable populations in the Amazon. So this is a future direction of research. Thank you very much for your attention, and here are my contact details. Thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you, Maria Elena. Thank you so much for this overview on Brazil. And again, if there's any question, let's see. I don't see any for now, at least. So again, thank you, Maria Elena. And let's move forward with Paulo Basta, our colleague from Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. And Paulo is a scientist at Fiocruz, Brazil. Thank you very much, Paulo, for sharing your experience again with the Brazilian Amazon with us. Paulo, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberto. Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfectly.
Oh, thank you. Oh, hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I would like to thank Roberto Lucchini and the organizing committee for the invitation to this meeting, and sending greetings for all colleagues who are here today. Claudia, Maria del Carmen, Jesus, Eliel, Maria Helena, and Alok. Good to see you again. As Roberto mentioned, my name is Paulo Basta. I'm a physician and a researcher in public health. I work for Oswaldo Cruz Foundation, a research institute of the Brazilian Ministry of Health. And I've been working with indigenous populations since 1999. In the last 10 years, I have coordinated the environmental research, environmental diversity and health researcher group that is devoted to understand health and environmental impact due to gold mining activities in indigenous territories of the Amazon region. Today, I will share with you our experience with Munduruku indigenous people from Pará state in the Brazilian Amazon. To start, I bring this map produced by the Amazon network of georeferenced social environmental information and network. This network monitors the expansion of the illegal gold mine activities in Pan-Amazonian region and inform us that the illegal mine sites in the Amazon raised up of 453 in 2018 to 641 in 2020. On the map, it is possible to see the illegal mining sites in the pink lines that correspond to the rivers that form the Amazon basin. The highlighted red circle shows the high concentration of mine sites in the Pará state, especially in the Munduruku indigenous land. The next graph shows that the mining site in indigenous lands increased by almost 500% in the last decade as a result of the lack of public policies to protect the Amazon biome. In the next slide, we can see a study that reveals the three indigenous lands more affected by the illegal mining activities in the Amazon region. In the light brown areas, we can see all indigenous land with legal situation in Brazilian Amazon. In the red area is the Kayapó indigenous land, nowadays the most affected by illegal mining sites. After that, in second position, the Munduruku indigenous land in the yellow area, both areas in Pará State, is located in Pará State. Then, and finally, in the third position is the Yanomami indigenous land in blue area, in the extreme northern region of Brazil. The graphs besides show the mining activities reported in Brazilian region from 1985 to 2020. And the next graphs show this same monitor according to the three mentioned indigenous lands. Despite the difference in the magnitude of the illegal mining activities between the three indigenous lands, a common point is the substantial increase after 2016, when the top was reached in 2020 during the Bolsonaro administration, unfortunately. Now, we show some Brazilian demographic data informing you that the last census carried out in 2022, last year, reveals that there are 203 million people living in Brazil today. Of them, 1,652,876 self-reported as indigenous people. That is less than 1.0% of the entire population. In spite of the small numbers, indigenous, in spite of the small numbers, the indigenous, sorry, let me know, wait a minute. Here. In spite of the small number, indigenous people set up a tremendous social cultural diversity. Once they represent more than 300 ethnic groups, speaking almost 300 languages, and they are spread in almost all Brazilian territory, not only indigenous land, but also in rural and urban areas. In total, we have almost 1,300 indigenous territories in the country. The next slide presents a cloud world graph showing the different ethnic groups that live in Brazil today. The major words correspond to the groups with more people, but the majority of the indigenous population are compounded by small groups. By this point, we're going to start to present the Munduruku indigenous people case. The Munduruku indigenous people are Tupi speaking people, most of whom live in Pará, Amazonas, and Mato Grosso, Brazilian states. They number almost 13,000 people, living in more than 150 villages at the margins of Tapajós and Amazonas rivers and near to the Trans-Amazonica Road. The current challenge of that came with the Western cultural contact include land conflicts with farmers, the presence of large government projects such as hydroelectric dams, waterways, and highways, as well as the expansion of illegal mining activities. Another important issue is the high rate of reported cases of syndromes or congenital malformation in Munduruku indigenous children without a clear diagnosis and or with suspect prenatal mercury exposure. This next slide shows pictures of these cases compared in black and white cases of Minamata disease in Japan in the 50s decade, and in color pictures Munduruku indigenous children with neurological impairment. Worried about the current threats, the Pariri Indigenous Association, which represents the Munduruku indigenous people from Pará State, has written a letter to Oswaldo Cruz Foundation asking for help to understand the health and the environment impacts promoted by the illegal mining activities in their traditional territories. This letter came to my hands, and due to this call to action, we designed a project named Impact of the Mercury on Protected Areas and Native Peoples in the Amazon, an integrated health and environment approach. So during October and November of 2019, exactly 4 years ago, our researcher group visited the Sauré-Moibã indigenous land, part of the Munduruku indigenous land in the Minho Tapajós River. In that period, we went to 3 Munduruku indigenous villages, named Sauré-Moibã and Poxô-Moibã, on the margin of Tapajós River, like here and here, and the Sauré Aboy village in the Jamanchim River. In that period, we visit in that period 35 households, carry out 200 clinical evaluation, and collect 195 hair samples, as well as 88 fish samples in order to analyze the mercury levels. Our first activity in the communities was to present the research team and the objectives and methods of the project. After clarifying the questions of the community members, we asked them to sign the consent forms. Then the research team carried out an interview as part of the home visits. The interviews focused on health problems, sanitation issues, water supply, and food intake, with special attention to fish consumption. After the interviews, the researcher invited the family to clinical evaluation, where we're taking measure of weight and health height of the participants. Children under 6 years old were evaluated by the pediatrician of the group, who checked the vaccine coverage and the growth curves and applied the Denver 2 test in order to access children neurodevelopment. People more than 12 years old were submitted to neurological clinical assessment in order to check motor, sensory, and cognitive changes associated with exposure to mercury. From all participants, we're taking samples of epithelial cells from the oral mucosa to access genetic polymorphisms involved with mercury metabolization in the human body. And from all participants, hair samples were collected to analyze mercury levels in the body. To conclude this protocol, 2 researchers collect fish at traditional fishing spots in the region and took muscle tissue samples from fish for analysis of mercury levels. This project produced some papers that I'm going to share the main results with the audience now. The first paper summarized the main results, showing the investigated village, pointing out the prevalence of high levels of mercury exposure in the communities. In general, the prevalence of mercury exposure above 6 ppm was 59.7%, ranging from 42.9 in Sauré-Moibã indigenous village here, to 87.5 in Sauré-Aboy indigenous village. From all her samples, adults, men, women, children, elders, were detected mercury levels. The worst situation was reported in Sauré-Aboy indigenous village, located at the margins of the Jamanchim River. The second paper reported the main neurological findings and revealed that the sensorial, motor, and cognitive changes were more frequent in people who had the highest levels of mercury in hair samples, levels above 10 ppm. And this is the frequency of this decline in symptoms. And the third publication was devoted to showing the mercury levels in women in their children under 2 years old. The graphs show that in the 3 studied villages were detected high levels of mercury in human as well in their children. Again, the worst situation was detected in Sauré, Sauré Aboy village, and the top graphs in the blue box. In the what else? In the this table, next table, shows the mercury levels of women and women of childbearing age and their offspring under 2 years old, showing in the first column the levels of mercury on the mothers, in the second column the levels of mercury in the children. The fourth manuscript revealed that the presence of gold mining sites into the indigenous lands promote social disorders too, as well as we reported symptoms like nervousness and irritability in adults related to high gas levels of mercury. Finally, the last publication called attention to the consequences of the contaminated fish intake in the health of the community. During the field work, 88 specimens of fish were captured and 17 distinct species were identified, represented in the 4 trophic levels. The average mercury concentration in no piscivorous fishes was 0.10 micrograms per gram, or ppm, while in piscivorous fish was 0.44. In this sample, piscivorous fish present the highest levels of mercury, and the piranha preta and peixe cachorro, dogfish, were the most contaminated fish. In contrast, no piscivorous fish, such as charuto, aracu, and pacu branco, presented low levels of contamination. To conclude, the main finding, as well as the detailed study protocol, were included in this technical report that was delivered to the chiefs who requested the study at the headquarters of the Public Minister of State of Pará in October 2020. Moreover, individual reports with results of mercury levels and other health information were delivered to the participants individually. After this experience, this month in October, our researcher team started the longitudinal study of pregnant women and indigenous newborns exposed to mercury in the Amazon region. The new study aims to evaluate the effects of prenatal exposure to methyl mercury on the neurodevelopment of indigenous children living in areas influenced by illegal gold mining in the Amazon region. The study takes place in the next 2 years. So let me share with you a short movie made this month during the field work of my research team in the Munduruku indigenous land. As you can see, this is impacts promoted in the environment, and we have to manage these impacts not only with affected people now, but also with future generations in long term. So to close my presentation, I invite you to visit our YouTube channel called Ciência e Poesia in Portuguese, or Science and Poetry, to learn about other works in indigenous health area of our researcher group. Thank you very much for your attention. Roberto?
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Paulo. This was really, really interesting. And thank you for sharing that video. That was really, really sad, of course. Sort of seeing the impact like this is self-explanatory, unfortunately. And so let me know if anybody has any question right now. I see something on the chat.
There are a couple of questions, yes.
Yes. So, question. Oh, Keith Martin. Thank you, Keith. What efforts are underway to stop deforestation and work with local communities to run low-impact ecotourism in critical biospheres that can generate funds that can address local community needs? Paulo.
So, actually, you have to stop the deforestation. Is the main action we have to do. And in some situations, ecotourism is a kind of action that we can promote, involving, of course, the communities on the management of the researches and the incomes, everything, and planning the visits. But we have to think together and the other kind of the projects and the sustainable projects in order to interrupt the deforestation in the Amazon.
Well, I see other very nice question from Keith. I think that these questions are for everybody else here, of course, for our Brazilian colleagues, but also for Colombia and Peru. So I think these two questions to me are kind of interesting for our general discussion in the end. So Keith, if you can stay with us a little bit more, I'll be happy to address these points in the general discussion. So thank you again, Paulo. And now it's my pleasure to introduce my great colleague from FIU, Alok de Orage, and Alok will introduce another angle here, and I believe everybody will be interested in this additional co-exposure, the way we are trying to kind of introduce, in our view here, in addition to Mercury, to see what other problems in addition to Mercury, and we already heard from the temperature and of course climate changes, but also let's see what else is happening in the Amazon. So Alok, the floor is yours.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me well?
Yep.
All right, so I am here and I work closely with Dr. Lucchini, and both of us share the common wall. He is my neighbor in the office. So that's great. And it's a pleasure to be here. And I am just in awe with all the presentations which have been made today regarding all the Amazon problem, especially focusing on to the mercury pollution and the effects of that in the Amazon on the people, indigenous people, the local people, as well as the ecosystem and the biodiversity and everything. From Peru to Brazil, to Maria's presentation, to Jose's presentation, to Claudia, everybody has kind of brought this thing together, is that yes, it is indeed a very, very pressing problem to be dealt with. So what I'm going to do today is that, yes, I mean, mercury is a big, big problem, and then we are facing all these things. But at the same time, what is happening is that we are also increasing the use of agrochemicals in Brazil, and you all are in the field. I am from a far distance. What I see, what the data is available about the Brazil, especially because of the increase in the agriculture for the corn, soy, beef production, the mining, and of course, and all those things which has caused the deforestation. And essentially, if you look at the use of agrochemicals, begin with the deforestation, and agrochemicals also means that even what is being used in the mining industry. So this is absolutely critical that how do we know that what these agrochemicals are doing to the people who live there, who breathe the air, they eat the food, or the water what they drink, and all those kind of things. So as you can see, this is, I don't have to show, we have seen this picture many, many times, but essentially the agrochemicals used in the agriculture, mining, and logging industry, what is being used, it has become a critical issue. And how in the co-exposure, you can also look into the perspective of that, what happens if the agrochemicals and the mercury co-exposures. But I don't have the direct data on that, but I will give you some examples, some modern technologies and all that, what can be used to address this co-exposure issue. And here's just showing that the increase in the import as well as production and sales of the toxic agrochemicals is increasing in that region. And as you can see here, all these countries, US, China, Brazil, in 2008 and 2016, acute toxicity categories, and one is the most toxic chemicals, and those which are being used, which are being dumped into the Amazon or even the surrounding areas to increase the production. And it's the reason because of this is the loss of guarantee of food security, compounded with the impending climate change, but still in order to have the livelihood and the economic impact, it is absolutely going to increase. And what you see here is effects on the environment and non-target organism and human health. And as Claudia had also talked about, that one health issue where it's just not the human being's health, it's just our plants, the animals which is surrounding us, and how it also impacts our health altogether. And it has to be taken seriously. So now, what are the agrochemicals? These include pesticides, fumigants, fertilizers, plant hormones, steroids, all these things, as you can see, which is used in the environment and used in the Latin American and Caribbean countries and Amazon region as pesticide herbicides. So this is how it is being used. And chemicals, it's known fact that it contaminates our soil, water, air, food chain through runoff, leaching, drift, or volatilization. And these issues are going to compound much more as we go into increasing the production because of the food insecurity. And especially also you can add another layer to it, is that in order to increase the production, we might be using even genetically modified organisms, which will be pesticide resistant, the monoculture and those kind of things, where the use of the pesticide will be even much, much more alarming. So we need to address all that. And this is the research demonstrates the effect of agrochemicals is overwhelming. Overwhelming research is already available where it has been shown that it is causing all kinds of health issues. If you look at it here, this data I just collected yesterday, and as you can see, all these diseases where there has been shown, the association has been shown by the agrochemicals. And then not only that, as you can see from here, the publication record of the agrochemicals, pesticide, and toxicity in Latin America and Caribbean, as you can see, all these publications which is coming out, and the increase in the publication, which is further strengthening the idea that how important it is to deal with. So, and here again, as you see, the impact is all organ essentially. And so what do we do? I mean, I have heard that we can actually collect different samples, and we can even monitor the chemicals and pesticide, all those things in the environment, and we can associate it. But then how do we know that which one is actually affecting, or whether there is a synergistic effect, additive effect, all those things? And this is where this is one of the exposome research which comes handy, and one can look into it, that the cumulative measures of the environmental influences corresponding to biological responses. Many of you are aware of this thing. So given at that particular time, but where do we measure it? That's another thing, as Huzes has just mentioned about hair or blood or urine. What will be the best way to measure? And this is a challenge. I totally understand that, collecting or building these repositories and collecting those samples, storing it, where to store, how to store, how we can harmonize the data retrieval as well as the analysis. So those challenges are ahead of us. So here the questions what we need to ask is, what do we know about the hazardous effects of co-exposures on human health? Where do the co-exposures show the harmful effect on the ecosystem? Which population is affected? And this is also absolutely important. It's It's human beings, which are even the high middle income countries, low income countries, or even the indigenous people. So the research, the methodology, everything has to be contextualized. What does that mean is that what resources, how we can make use of the local resources much more in order to do all this analysis and show that the impact of this health impact on the people. How do we know about the toxicity of co-exposures of agrochemicals? This again, yes, we can do all the rat, mouse, all this kind of studies we can do, and we are doing it. We get very great insights from there, but we have even modern technologies where we can also bring in some advanced tools of the bioinformatics, as well as even now the artificial intelligence, the predictions and those kind of things, which can at least set the stage for the further clinical investigations and all that. And what do we do to mitigate the unhealthy effects of agrochemicals? The question by Martin just recently, how do we tell that, okay, deforestation is, how we can stop deforestation, how we can minimize, reduce, repurpose, or find some benign form of these agrochemicals which can have a minimum impact or the benign impact on the human health. We know that it's a lifetime of exposures at different places from birth to 65 years, as you can see, where we can get exposed to breastfeeding, soil, domestic environment, all these things, occupational. So, what happens is that the agrochemicals, essentially, they accumulate, the low exposures over the period of time, this accumulates, and then after that, it shows the effect. So what happens here, you can see that if we consider these toxic chemicals or the agrochemicals, in addition to that, all those factors also affect the cellular physiology, what happens. And then these can be measured through the DNA, RNA, genes, metabolomes, and all those kind of things. Because these are very common. If you can see my mouse moving, inflammation, disrupted signal transduction, endocrine disruption, all these are the steps. Any disease you take, neurodegeneration, the cardiovascular disease or cancer or anything, these are very common cellular aspects what happens. So we need to find those markers from here, and then integrating all these data, the exposure data, the genetic data, the marker data, and then identifying it with the integration of all these aspects to show that what causes all these phenotypic or chronic complex diseases, what happens. So the idea here is that how we can, or what we can do to integrate this thing, whether do we have enough computational power to do this? Do we have enough statistical power to do all these things? So this is where the field is moving, and we are trying to figure it out, and we are working in these directions. And this is again, the bottom-up exposomics, where you can measure all those things, the mercury, the lead, or any kind of a pesticide, or persistent organic pollutants, all those things in the environment, and then you associate with the health issues. Or you can take blood, urine, dental or hair samples, and then you can measure. And this will be the actual or accurate method, you can say. But I know the challenges. Maria and everybody who is working in this field, they will understand it much better, that it's how challenging it to set up a good clinical studies. Here, this is just an example what I'm showing, that this is how I had done. This is is the 75 pesticide used in Florida. And as you can see, I have just taken a timing of puberty, which is also a risk factor for the breast and ovarian cancer. And you can see that all these chemicals together, it also affects the precocious puberty and also affects the delayed puberty. But some of them are specific to the delayed puberty. Some of them are specific to the precocious puberty. And this data was analyzed using the chemical toxicogenomic database. This is a study which is also being conducted currently with one of our graduate students. This is the Savannah River system with the Timms nuclear plant. And then these are the computer modeling of the fate map of even, let's say, for example, I mean, he is working with the uranium, mercury, and all that, that what happens downstream, even if you have taken the remedial measure, what happens down the stream, 2 miles, 5 miles from the point source, that what is the concentration of those compounds and the people are surrounding those watershed area, how they might be impacted. Are those concentrations after the remedial measure is still toxic to them? And for that, he has used zebrafish model to test those, or there is a microarray analysis, which is there. That's where he has also looked at the transcriptomic data, which can tell you the toxicological signature. So that could be a marker or the signature markers, which can be also used as a measure of the toxicity, whether actually it is toxic or not, even if you have taken the remedial measure. What happens down the stream? So the fate map, all the computer modeling can tell you. Not only that, it has also being used now, and it's just not the unique system what we are using, the extreme weather events, whether it's a hurricane, whether it's the rain, the flood, and all those kind of things which is. This is another study which we have just like published in 22-23. Here also you can see BPA, PCBs, and parabens, and also environmental phenols. And here you can see the genes, some of them are unique and some of them are common. So that means that these, all these 3-4 different chemicals are together, are going through the system or the cellular process, the biological process or signaling, where they are common in there. Then here, not only this the chemical thing, we have even looked at the metabolites. And the metabolites, as you can see in the bottom, were also taken into consideration together, the metabolic profile of the patients, such as total cholesterol, triglycerides, whether those enhances the chances or the odds ratio of contracting the prostate cancer. So this was one of the studies which we have published, and we are working on further in advancing this kind of a study much more. And then this work here, we have used the enhanced data as a very comprehensive data from 2005 to 2015. And then we have come up with these conclusions, and we have found hub genes, what we call it, which are influenced by these exposures. And here I can just mention that this is going to exacerbate further the climate change, the volatility of the compounds which is there in our environment. And essentially, I think the agrochemicals pose much more also greater threats, because our environmental microbiome hasn't developed yet to degrade it. The natural pollutants are there. If you leave it in the environment, it may get degraded over the period of time, but all the synthetic or the persistent organic pollutants are yet to be, we do not have those kind of environmental microbiome to even degrade it. So it's a greater challenge for us, and this is just some of the processes by which this can exacerbate as the temperature goes up, even including the natural chemicals or the natural metals which will be released into the environment. And together with our synthetic chemical, it is costing us much more. So we need to be aware about all those things. So in conclusion, agrochemicals have delayed health effects and can cause various impairments. Developing countries use less agrochemicals. This is interesting. As you can see, the high-income countries, the practices of the industrial agricultural system has impacted the use of the very, very high number of the agrochemicals which are being used in industrialized nations in the Western countries. Pesticide application in low and middle income countries are often unscientific, how they are being used, how much they are being used, who is using it, whether the person has a PPE or not. And that is, in fact, those populations which are using it or where it will increase will have a greater threats to their health concerns. And not only health concerns, but also the biodiversity and the ecosystem problems. Long-term ecological damages caused by agrochemicals affect human health and biodiversity. As distorted, so this is also an important point here, distorted market-driven environment can lead to inefficient enforcement, because this is an important aspect. Because if it's a market-driven, if you're getting, it's fetching a good price, as you can see, the artisan gold mining, because it is fetching good price in the market, so still this is being continued. So how to develop some sort of sustainability to the livelihood to those people that will have some sort of a mitigative effort or effect onto the reducing the pollution or reducing the these kind of exposures. So what we need to do, and all of you who have presented very well, that we are in the right direction, but this needs to be done more. We also need to have much more harmonization in the research methods, in the analysis method going forward, a repository of the databases which can be accessed so that one can do more research. More collaboration is also required. So here the priority toxic, this is prioritized toxicity level. Like mostly we focus into how much is being used, but even the less dose itself can be much more toxic. So it becomes much more important to pinpoint that how to prioritize the chemicals, whether it comes from the plastics or whether it comes from our agrochemicals, whatever we are using. So which one is more toxic to it? develop high standard guidelines to reduce risk to marginalized populations, indigenous populations, ensure safe use of through proper education, labeling and application, promote sustainable agriculture. So lifestyle changes. We don't want wheat all the time. We can even diversify our taste buds a bit in order to sustain or help the ecosystem to be so like some of the efforts like this, probably you might know much more. So this is an awareness program to advocate to propose the law against the aerial spraying. This is from your area over the Brazil and in the Amazon where people are using it, advocating not to use and how far it, but this may not be just enough. We need to do much more going forward. So, and I think this will be this was my last slide. So I'll just stop here. And then these are our graduate students who is working, and this is the computer modeling. And then this is our PhD student. He is graduating in the next few days. He's just finishing his doctorate. And these my collaborators. And this is our building here in the FIU. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Alok. Thank you so much. This is excellent. I see questions in the Q&A, but please remain a little bit more because I want to address these questions in the final discussion, which will take place very soon after my own presentation, which I promise will be very short. Just one point, Alok. I saw your final slides. You mentioned kind of some sort of a prohibiting aerial spraying.
Yep.
In my understanding, even if you prohibit the aerial spraying of pesticides, then you have people walking and spraying and they becoming all soaked of pesticides. So I think you know, it really depends. You prohibit the aerial spraying with airplanes, and then you have people in the ground getting a lot of pesticides on their head, etc. And I've seen a lot of videos.
That pertains to much more as we go towards the industrial production system. So there it might be required, the aerial population, and you are absolutely right. The farm people do need to have a proper PPE, proper way to mitigate the exposure or minimize the exposure. Or rather, this is where I think another thing which comes into play is that maybe you need to use some alternative to the pesticides or the find something which is benign or much more environmentally friendly, sustainable agriculture system that may need to be evolved or need to be worked on.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So let me share my screen now. Oh, no. This is, I'm so sorry. I cannot share my screen.
Why?
Because I have a problems with this. Alok, I need to send you my slides because I cannot share the screen at the moment. Can you?
Okay, sure. Come over. Maybe you can take over my chair here, and then you can just present it.
That's okay.
Okay, I can share it. Yeah, just send it to me.
Yes, please.
I'm
very sorry. I have a problem with my own system.
This is a good thing to be neighbor, right? Good neighbor.
Good neighbor. I mean, Alok office is just next door from my own office.
Yeah, send it to me. I'll share it. I see there are questions, and then maybe we can address some of them into our question answer session.
Yeah, maybe why don't you start a little with one of those questions while I get my file. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So let's see. The question was, I think this question is from Keith, and he is asking that what should be done to eliminate the use of mercury in legal and illegal mining, and what is the pitch to government? Who will address this? Paulo? Would you like to address that? Or did you answer this question? We cannot hear you. Although you are not muted. No, we did not. We can't hear you. Who's
I
this?
sent you the slides, Alok.
Okay.
Did you
Okay.
find them?
Who's this? Can you answer that question? What should be done to eliminate the use of mercury in legal and illegal mining? What is the pitch to government? Or maybe Maria. Maria is raising her hand. Go ahead, Maria.
I don't have the solution, but the problem is not only the contamination, the use of mercury in mining, because even if we stop to use mercury, all the mercury that was released along the last decades remains in the environment. So we still have environment and populations contaminated. So we have to live with that every day.
Anybody else wants to add to that? Who's this?
Yeah, I'm Claudia.
Oh, Claudia. Yes, Claudia. Go ahead.
Yes, I think
Roberto, I haven't received your presentation yet.
Don't?
No, I haven't received it yet. Okay, Claudia, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, well, we do have to reduce the use of mercury, but the thing is, like, for example, Minamata Convention is a tool, but they don't force to reduce the use of mercury in ASGM. They force it to use it to reduce the use in other things, lamps, the pressure measurements, other things. But in ASGM, there's not any like obligation to reduce it. It takes what it takes is just a fight against corruption, because everybody knows where the mercury is coming from. Like most of the mining, the mercury mining in the world have been closed, and there are some like 2 that are open, and the route it has been reported already, but I mean, like, it's along with other trafficking of other things. So I think it's it has to be in, like, a lot of countries has to be together to try to ban the traffic of mercury, because, for example, in Peru, there's regulation, but most of the people know that most of the mercury that is used in ASGM is from black market, and it's coming from Bolivia, where it enters legally, but then it just goes with black market to other countries.
Yes, who's this? You have some to say? I see your hands raised.
Yes, something very quickly is that mercury is not the problem. The problem is we are basing our economy on gold extraction. So we need to stop gold mining. If we stop gold mining, we will have to ask everybody in the world, let's do something. Let's put a real value on gold. If we continue increasing gold prices, mercury will be used for the rest of the time. That's one point. And second point is that the Amazon in particular and all those biodiversity rich places, they need to be protected. And that protection has to come from the whole world. That's so simple, because our future is going to be based on sustainable development, and biodiversity has the key to solve the problems in the future. So I think that mercury is just part of the problem. We need to see the whole picture. We need to attack directly the gold selling all over the world. We need to change our minds, but mercury will stay in the forest and destroying the Amazon if we don't take real actions right now. For now and to the future, of course.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I think also all these our I would say I'm just trying to put his So because of all our climate change and everything, what I'm thinking is that, you know, this is going to even exacerbate the situation much more because of the like, you know, as the temperature increases, all those things also, it will start to be released in the environment. Okay, I think Roberto is set, so you can present from here. Yeah, come. Let's switch. Yeah, let's switch office. Thank you very much, Alok. And again, can you see the slides over there?
Yes, it's fine.
So let me go through this very quickly. And this is microplastics. What? So this is microplastic, okay? And this morning there was actually a session on this, and I really thank CUGH for organizing that. And we heard this morning about this, exactly this report with Phil Landrigan's group about microplastic. For those of you who are not aware or familiar with this problem, microplastics are, of course, they derive from plastics. And so you have debris of little fractions of plastic that can get into the environment. And not only that, you have also other types of chemicals that are embedded into these plastic structures. And so you have PFAS, phthalates, bisphenols, and many others that are becoming an enormous problems for the entire planet and also for the Amazon, unfortunately. As we heard already from all the other presentation, is something like the deforestation, opening the door for agrochemicals, mercury, of course, it's already there, but also agrochemicals and plastics and microplastics, for instance. And so it's important to consider the temperature and the light changes, climate and light changes, because with those elements, we have that some chemical phenomenon for the leaching out of these components into the environment, and with all the problems that we already know for many of those components in terms of neurotoxicity for the nervous system, carcinogenicity, effects on the immune system, endocrine disrupting, and all this already known effects on human health. But now it's a matter of additional concern for these microplastics. So this report of the Mineral Commission, it tells us the story and basically is telling us that the multinational fossil carbon corporation are reducing the production of fossil fuels because of the increasing demand of EV vehicles based on electricity, as we know from the great demand of electric vehicles. So the reduction of this is opening the door to the increased production of plastics in general. So the plastic manufacture is also an energy intensive, and so there's also a dangerous relationship with the increase of global greenhouse gas emission related to the production of plastics. So by the way, there's a global plastic treaty that is being worked out at the UN level to limit the plastic production and hopefully end the plastic pollution by 2040. We, again, thanks to CUGH, these problems were discussed this morning, but I just wanted to create a link with that other session. And the plastic treaty roadmap is here. There's a negotiation taking place. And we hope that by 2025, this final treaty will be in place and will be important in this agenda to consider at the global level. But I believe that the Amazon should be seriously included in the conversation here, because I'm trying to understand if this is one of the points that is being discussed, but I'm not receiving any information
for now. So I think it's going to be important trying to interact with these people that are basically involved in the conversation. You see 160 country out of 193 of the United Nations, now 167. There was a meeting in France this year. I don't know exactly when the next one will take place, but it's going to be important to probably try to have some communication with about the Amazon in this problem of the microplastic pollution in the planet, because what we know is very little, but of course there's a lot of research being done in the Amazon, trying to understand what is the presence of microplastic in the Amazon. So there's a definition here. The microplastic is less than 5 millimeters in length, according to US and the EU. Okay, so let's see what the situation is, and let's see what the co-exposure with mercury can actually determine, and see what. Okay, so if you can see from the slide, these are microplastic filaments here. You see 100 microns in length here. So this is what we can see in the microscope. So I'm actually going through 2 or 3 very recent studies. Here is one from Brazil, March 2023, with colleagues from University of Rondônia, Paulo and Maria Elena. Please correct me if my pronunciation is wrong, but Rondônia State is the 3rd largest producer of fish in Brazil and the largest producer of native fishes in the Amazonia. And so this study was done in fish farms, in the water of these fish farms, and in various locations of this state. And you see in red, the fish farms negative for microplastic, and in blue, the fish farm positive for microplastic. And so, of course, this is what they see at the microscope. These are aggregates and filaments of various color. We have a transparent fiber, but we also have red and blue fibers. And I understand that they become transparent actually with the light and the temperature. They lose the color and they become transparent. So this is actually all this is ongoing. This research is being produced 2023, 2022, a little bit 2021. So this is really what people are concerned and investing time and research and effort in science. So in this study, basically, they understand the factors that are influencing the presence of microplastic in the Amazon in this particular location. Rainfall, of course, is very important. We already heard about this. So rainfall and climate change of course, has an influence on the rainfall. So it can increase, and so basically they are able to see where do these microplastics come from. And of course, in this study, they were able to track the origin from outside the fish farm, basically in the places where there is people using microplastics that is being introduced in these villages. And so therefore, these plastics that can become microplastic can go into the water and into the fish farm, and of course, then into the fish. So this is another study, again, very recent, 2023 March, with other colleagues from universities here in Brazil. And you can see that this is about shrimp. So they are not only, of course, considered in the water, but also shrimp and fish. So unfortunately, there is contamination also into the shrimps. And again, dark blue fiber as polypropylene. You see, you can try to understand what type of plastic is there. Light blue is nylon, etc., etc., etc. This is all mounting evidence and research and science being produced. you see S1 and S2. They try to compare shrimps from a location very close to the city, to the village, and other rural location. And of course, they see higher concentration of microplastic in the shrimp of the urban area compared to the rural area. And this is a beautiful picture of the Camarão da Amazonia. And you can see, unfortunately, the microplastics are in the cephalothoracic part and the gastrointestinal and in the abdominal part. And there are, of course, different implication. We eat the abdominal part, but the cephalothorax means that they also see this microplastic, they eat it, and it goes into their body. Gastrointestinal is important. When we eat those shrimps, they should be clean. We should not have the gastrointestinal part. So, but if they're not clean, of course they can be unfortunately contaminated also with microplastic. And this is the third important other study, 2023 April. This is a very large study that has been conducted basically in different parts of here from Belém to Manaus, and actually this is a very large study with many samples, Manaus, Santarém, Macapá, Belém, and again the presence of the microplastics in this activity with these samplers, again different colors. And these colleagues, they tried also to do some risk assessment. Unfortunately, everything is located in the urban stream for now, not much in the Amazon River and tributaries, but hopefully the Amazon River and tributaries will not become as polluted or as the urban streams in the near future. So we don't know, everything is moving, and hopefully this research is very, very important to get that knowledge, and we are really thankful to these colleagues that are doing this work. And the final here consideration is some critical review of the interactions of microplastic with heavy metals. There are, of course, possibility of interaction. The two component metals and microplastic can increase the damage, and there's a literature showing this in different component, aquatic environment, terrestrial environment, very, very little or nothing about the impact on human health. And okay, these are studies that are being conducted in Spain, South Korea, China, South Korea, and Spain. This is all, again, very, very recent work that is being done, trying also, again, to understand the interaction between these co-exposure. Because, of course, this is the final message, the indigenous people and everybody on a larger scale is not exposed only to one component. We are exposed to different ones at the same time. So that's why the exposomic approach that my colleague Alok was mentioned before is very important, to have a holistic approach, because these exposure can happen at the same time. They can interact between each other and maybe cause a greater impact on human health and in the ecosystem. And okay, I think I'm going to skip this. So again, thank you for your attention. We need more data. We need future research on human health impacts, not only through ingestion, also inhalation and dermal contact. Start considering holistic exposure, mercury, temperature, agrochemical, and of course, health disparities and inequality. Thank you very much again. And now I think it's time for a general discussion. I'm gonna go back to my office.
So anyone has any question? I see Claudia's hands raised, so maybe you can ask if you have any question.
No, sorry, I think it was raised since before. Sorry.
All right. So now we are back in our offices. So I see somebody has posted something, a long one. Oh, Keith has posted something. Okay, so we will look at that. So quick question to Roberto. Any quick question? Roberto, can you hear me?
Yes, of course I can hear you.
Now it says that you have stopped me from sharing my picture.
Yeah, because I finished the presentation, so I stopped sharing it, but you still have it if you want to open it. I don't know.
Okay, no, that's fine. All right. Okay, so we can start. Paulo, you have something to say?
I think there are questions in the chats here. I see. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Robert.
Okay,
Yes, we are all here.
Okay, so innovative. One of the questions by Keith was, can you share innovative strategies to reduce? Okay, here it is. To reduce plastic pollution. Wow. What biodegradable materials can be used to substitute for plastic? These are enormous questions, Keith. I don't very know about this answer. I think that this roadmap to limit or stop plastic production, of course, is important. But as scientists, what we can do is produce science, produce evidence, produce data that are already existing, but for the Amazon, not much, I would say. And so I think this should be, I welcome, and as I said, I guess it's great that these colleagues are focusing on this problem in the Amazon. And but for your question, biodegradable materials, I'm not an expert into this, and single-use plastic is recycled. I guess this morning they show that only 10% of plastic is actually being recycled kind of successfully. So 10% is very little. What can be done to increase recycling? I learned this morning that actually plastic recycling is quite expensive as well. So it looks like it's a very difficult problem to tackle. But of course,
Roberto.
Yes.
Roberto, I just want to mention that.
Yeah, please.
I just want to mention that plastic recycling is kind of an odd process, because each time we recycle, we add more plastifiers.
Okay.
Okay, and adding more plastifiers means adding more toxics to the environment. So recycling has been sold as a solution, but if we look closely, probably it's not, because those companies that they talk too much about recycling, they just produce more and more and more. And so recycling is useless if you are producing each time more and more the same product. On the other hand, of course, you will have to add more plastifiers to process the first ones. And that means more chemicals into the environment. So we need, I think there is a very good group here to start thinking something about how to approach the concept of recycling. I think we need somehow to change that philosophy that tells us that recycling is a wonderful form of protecting the environment. From my maybe bias point of view, I think
but there's also one question that comes to me, Jesus. Thank you. I think that you mentioned this, and in terms of course, in terms of you said training and education and raising the awareness with indigenous people as well. I don't know how aware they are about the use of agrochemicals and plastic. Probably, myself, I was not really aware of these issues of microplastic until very recently, because I know Phil Landrigan, he sort of told me about all this, but and if you look at even our books in occupational environmental health, look for a chapter in these books about the microplastic toxicology. You don't find it. You don't find. This is very interesting. I was just looking into this kind of thing, and it's all kind of a emerging problem, but of a very, very large scale. And so will be something very hard also to address, because everybody's using plastics. Here's one or whatever, and a lot of this is kind of useless, because we may as well use other products, as a glass or whatever, instead of plastic. And surely people in the Amazon, they have lived so many years without plastic. So why are they now also receiving these other problems? And what's the advantage? It's Alok, we cannot hear you. There's some problems with your voice. And
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Yeah.
Claudia, you wanted to say something. It looks like.
Yeah, I wanted to say something that I think, and Jesus mentioned this a lot in his presentations. I think the solution is kind of also in nature. I mean, we have trees that are like impermeables, and there are some initiatives that are looking for natural fibers that could be used as a replace of plastic, that are really, really recycled. Those are really true biodegradable. You know what I want to say. Yeah. Because that also is another thing. Like, there's a plastic biodegradable. Like, that's not like, also it's just cut in little pieces, but still a contaminant, right? But when you take it from nature, that maybe is a real biodegradable. Yeah.
So I would like to add one thing here to Roberto and everybody we are talking about. The microplastics are certainly, like, it's in the nanometer range of those small particles, but ultimately these are all from the petroleum products. And as Roberto had mentioned, that whether it's the BPA or the phthalate, and so it's a combination of all those things which come in there. So one is that the small fibers, which could be an effect, as he demonstrated in the fish or the shrimp, or even it could even hamper the plant growth or whatnot. But ultimately, the chemicals which are used in the manufacturing of the plastic, those are the root cause, right? So how does that affect, like, if it leaches out, if it gets degraded, and it is going to take time, it will not get degraded very soon. It's maybe for years, or I don't know whether even it will get degraded. Everybody knows about it, and that is why we're looking for the options to have a biodegradable format or something of that sort. But what manufactures the plastic? I think if we can find those ingredients, already we know those ingredients, and then look at the association with the diseases or something of that sort, that may be one of the ways to go about it. One is just even from the solid waste point of view. That's like, how do you dispose it of? Whether it's how much you can recycle, and as users just pointed out, that is very, very, it's not a good way to recycle plastic. And only there are certain kind of a plastics which can be recycled. Only 10 to 30% only gets recycled. And that is to have the recycling process is also, we know that it's very, very expensive. So if it is going to stay with us, because certainly it is convenient. Moreover, after the COVID, I think it has come with the vengeance. Like, now people are using it much more for the protection, for the, any kind of infection prevention. Do we have anything to, replace that plastic, or how do we do that? So those kind of questions can also be raised. It seemed to me, it felt like, okay, now, before the COVID, it felt like, okay, now we are going to be reducing the use of plastic. Many, even interestingly, I'm sure in Brazil or even low middle income countries, they are much more sensitive about it, using the plastic. Like if you have to use the plastic bag now,
Alok, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think we have only 4 minutes, and I would like to make sure that this.
okay. I mean, yeah, these are ongoing thing.
Yes, please.
Yes,
No
go
other
ahead.
pending questions or.
I think we should address the questions, some of them which people have asked.
Yep. Keith, did you wanna I say something? I saw that there was a question in the chat, but
And
maybe.
there he is.
Oh, I know. I'm just thank you, everybody. You guys are absolutely fantastic. It dovetailed nicely, as Roberto said, about Dr. Landrigan's presentation this morning. So it's just lovely to see you. Thank you for doing this. We're going to share all of your sessions with our 38,000 person network, and just know at CUGH, as you know, we are here on an ongoing basis to take your brilliant ideas, share them globally. And as somebody who put a question, and I accidentally deleted it, so I apologize to the person, but he asked about, so that's totally my fault.
No,
So
that's
he
okay.
asked about-
It disappeared,
Yeah.
so I was wondering what happened.
Yeah, that was my fault, 100%. So I apologize. But he asked the question about political engagement, and I don't know if any of you
Okay.
want to ask that. So I just wanted to apologize for the person, and just if I can say to him, everybody get involved in politics, as Dr. Rudolf Virchow said, and Einstein said, we have to get involved in politics. It's where the rubber hits the road. I think, Claudia, you alluded to that in your comments. So thank you. Anyway, I'll turn it back. I just wanted to come on and thank you all. And I'm sorry for hogging all the questions. You're just so.
Thank you, Keith.
you're so
And
amazing.
thanks also Jenna and all CUGH for giving us this opportunity. I know that this is going to be broadcasting to so many people.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. And
Uses has his hands up. Do you want to say something, Uses? Uses. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Are you going to cut us at 4 o'clock, Keith, or what's going to happen?
Jenna can maybe tell us. I would not do that. Jenna wouldn't do it either. But if it's okay with her, it's
will
definitely
cut.
okay with us. So I'll ask her to. She's listening. So Jenna, please let us know in the chat if the great team of panelists here can keep going a little bit.
How much extra time did you want?
Sorry?
How much extra time?
For this session only, I think maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, we can go 10 extra minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Jesus. Jesus, go ahead. We have 10 minutes more.
Yeah, your hands are raised for a long time. Go ahead.
Oh, I would like you to say thanks to all of you for this wonderful webinar that I enjoy very much. And I think we should continue with this discussion on the Amazon, not only through this webinar, but maybe start thinking something more chronologically based. Let's say, let's meet each 3 months or something like that. Maybe through brainstorms, we can create more ideas that might be useful to put together in order to move forward what we want to do with our research in terms of protection of the Amazon. Thank you very much for all your
excellent, Jesus.
help.
By the way, we have a meeting right now with our group.
Yes.
So I have one point that I wanted to raise, because I understand, I think it was you, Jesus, that, or I don't remember exactly, my memory is so bad, about the clinical case registry. To me, that is something like if I see those mercury level, I really tend to think that it's probably really at the clinical level. So I cannot imagine a registry in the Amazon, Brazil, Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, Venezuela. Well, I think that something like that is probably far from being in place, I guess. So I would just hear a comment from you guys about the possibility to do something in that direction, because I think having a clear understanding of the entity of the problem at the clinical level would be absolutely relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, I think also, I mean, okay, sorry, Maria, go ahead. I see your hands raised. Maria. Oops,
You
again.
first, Salud. You first.
Again? Can you hear me now? No?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think also is that many of the things are like, users can tell that some of the diseases which may be coming because of all the developments and all these things which is happening with the exposure increasing and everything of that sort, because non-communicable diseases in particular, infectious diseases I can understand in the indigenous community. Non-communicable, even if they have it, they don't know it, and how their environment, how it is changing to affect their outcome, the health outcome. So I don't want it to be sound like that you're imposing that, okay, you are going to have this problem. But at the same time, having this thought process going that one has to be careful and how we can mitigate the use of these things into those indigenous community. Not only that, from the point of view that contextualize, maybe some community, and this is very pertinent to Claudia and Hughes, that maybe some community have already advanced to that stage where already they have started to use. Some of them just they're picking it up because this is convenient. Using plastic is convenient. Increasing production through the agrochemicals is convenient. And if it becomes much more economically viable proposition to them, they will start to use, people will start to use, but that is where I think the role of us and the government and the policymakers should come into, that don't provide these alternatives which are harmful to them. Through the enforcement, through the education, through the replacement, from the whatever, so that's the kind of a knowledge we will need to build. One is showing that, okay, look, people use this thing and they're having these issues. If you use it, you will also have a problem. Don't use it. Or use something which is much more benign to the environment, benign to your health issues. Something of that kind of a thought process might be one way to look at it. I don't know how to do it, how much, as Keith was mentioning, how we can get engaged or how one can get engaged, because everywhere the political climate and all those things which are very, very different.
Okay, Alok, thank you. Claudia, you have your hands raised if you want to address some more comment. And Maria
I think
Elena.
Maria Elena was first, I think. Elena?
Sorry.
Okay,
I would like to share a slide with the official registry in Brazil. Let me, okay. You can see?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, this is the cases of intoxications, of mercury exposure and intoxication is mandatory for health professionals in Brazil. You can see that the Amazonian state has a huge sub-notification. And I think that we can find a similar situation perhaps in Peru and Colombia. So we have a problem of education in our health professionals to identify and diagnosis. But I agree with Alok, and I think that the part of the solution perhaps is to present monitoring mercury, such as we do with glucose, for example, to prevent diabetes. So we can propose to monitor mercury not as a diagnosis, more as a prevention strategy. And if I'm present to the population, if mercury is high, we have to have tools to reduce in this case. And we can do a restricted diet or during temporarily and manage this level. I think perhaps this could be a good approach. Thank you.
I just want to compliment. Yeah, I just want to compliment. I think if we're talking about indigenous population, we have to involve them in the solution. Like, otherwise we're just telling things to do, things that we cannot do. Roberto, you just show us a glass of plastic, and we know plastic is bad, and we're using it. Like, and we cannot ask them to change behaviors if we, with all the knowledge, sometimes we don't do it. I think we have to talk more with indigenous people, and what Elena showed is a perfect example. The Amazon doesn't have health, doesn't have access. Like, that's the problem, I think, in all of the countries. And Brazil is way advanced compared to other countries, because at least they have the FUNAI, at least they have like a section that is focused in indigenous population, which is not real in other countries. Like, it doesn't even exist. So I think, like, in the Amazon, always going to be complicated, because just going there, going to, like, I'm living in Madre de Dios, but to get to other places take 2, 3, 4 days, and you have to buy gasoline, you have to go through mining area. That's the big problem in the Amazon. So we have to involve the people that are living there.
Absolutely.
If we want to monitor, we have to teach them, or even bring them and then have indigenous scientists. I mean, they know the Amazon much better than us, you know, and we cannot tell them it's this. I mean, like, it has to be something that they like. I mean, like, we can give them knowledge, but we have to involve them, not just give it, just involve them in the solution. And I don't know the correct way of doing that. I think we're still learning the process, but we have to take that in account, I think.
That is where I think the contextualizing according to the place, the people, that may have or, like, you know, the cultural determinants, those things can also come into play. I see Keith's hand is on. Keith?
If I may suggest one thing, because you asked the question, I think with Jesus, I think you may have asked the question about meeting regularly. So I was at the Inter-American Development Bank last week, and they were running a whole week on knowledge for implementation, and it was really revolving around the issues that you're talking about with regard to the interface between environmental degradation, human health, and socioeconomic outcomes. So I just say that the bank is open for business in terms of governments wanting to, so they want partnership to deal with the issues you're talking about. The second issue relates to collaborations with Sub-Saharan Africa, which are engaging and have similar challenges, right, in terms of illegal mining, mercury poisoning, the degradation of the Congo Basin. And they also have a lot of solutions. So something just for your consideration is to find partnerships, if you wish, with colleagues in those regions in Sub-Saharan Africa that are interrogating similar issues. There may be collaborations where you can learn from each other, share some knowledge, and I just think there could be some really powerful collaborations, if I may suggest, that together we can learn from each other in terms of these issues that are affecting both the lungs of the planet. So anyway, thanks for your patience on that.
Very, very good point in the global health. There's some issues, some solution which applies to different places may apply to the other place too. So it's absolutely important. Any other points? I see Claudia again. You have your hand open.
No, I think I forget to. Sorry.
So I think Jenna is gonna cut off in 1 minute, probably.
So I just sent the link to everybody, a separate link, so that we can join there for the other different conversation. So you all can join on that conversation. So I would say that, Paulo, you have something to say? Oh, we can't hear you still. Something, you may have to choose your different mic, I guess. Select your different mic, maybe.
We can't hear you.
No, we can't hear you.
Okay, I think we have to close.
Maybe when you join on the other one, that we can start to hear you. So I thank you, Keith. Thank you so much, Gina, for all the facilitation of this. It's great to have you both and all the participants who withstood our all presentations. I still see a good number of people are still there. So thank you all so very much. This is an important issue to discuss, talk, and see what solutions we can bring to the table. Thank you all. Thank you very, very much.